Quiet on the set. Here we go. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. I'm DearMYRTLE, your not-so-retired friend in genealogy. Welcome to Mondays with Myrt, where we talk about anything and everything that's come across our Genia desk in the last 2 weeks since last we met. We have got an unusual show today, and it's not really a show as much as it is a conversation. And so your input, those of you on the YouTube side, is just as important as the panelists that we have. But the unusual thing is that we have 3 guests today. We're going to find out quite quickly who they are and what's happening. But first, I want to see who's out there. Welcome to Jane from North Carolina. Can't do that very well. Hi, Bev. Good to see you. I'm waving across the border to you. Leslie's here. Valerie's here. 71. Remember, we were just complaining about cold weather just the other day. Hello to you. Good to see you. And whenever I see you, Betty Lou, I'm reminded that you always remind people to hit the like button and subscribe, and I do appreciate that. Gwenny's here. Let's see. I think you can tell from some of the comments who some of my guests are. I don't know. We shall see what we shall see. Anyway, I'm going to ask Frank, my co-host, to pull up the panelists, our regular panelists, and we'll test their mics. Let's hear your mic, Frank. And then we will introduce our guests. And there we go. All right. So, good morning, everybody. Yes. Have you noticed that they've changed the size of our name tags? So you probably just want to have only your first name so we can see you in your full glory, because it's all about looking good, right? So we have about 20 panelists on our list, and who is able to come shows up. One of our panelists that gets to show up every once in a while is our Daniel Loftus, and Daniel's here to talk to us and demonstrate what that new Irish census that was just released looks like. So we're going to be talking with him in a little bit. We're also going to talk with Robin Stewart. She's got a 2-pronged presentation, 2 parts to her presentation based on a post she made over on Substack. And Robin, I got to know you because of Substack. Mm-hmm. Welcome to you as well. And then we also have Barbara, and there she is. She was one of the first ones in the green room this morning. Barbara, it's good to have you back. And we're going to talk about her Stories 250. So we've got a nice group. Now, those of you on the YouTube side, you're on your best behavior. No moderator over there. You know how crazy that group can be. Well, Cousin Dave's over there as well. Why do I take the time to let you all know who's on the other side? Because the input from the community is really important to the discussion. I mean, we are pretty know-it-all kind of people. Hello, Karen. Didn't mean to miss you. And there's, Monta is here. I remember the first time you and I had discussions about that tree in the cemetery. Oh, anyway, Claire's over there. She's one of our panelists, but she decided to be on the YouTube side as well. So it's good. Yeah, it's good. All right. Top-notch guests. Let's go for it. So I think I'm going to take Daniel first. So, Frank, if you would have, if you'd move everybody else to the wings, I'd appreciate that. Frank's going to be my co-host today. Hillary's my timer. You know how I have trouble keeping up with the right time. And we're going to talk with Daniel specifically. So good to see you. I just recently rearranged my desktop, and of course I have the hard drive you sent me with all my old DearMYRTLE videos from the old channel. Thank you so much for being my Geniabuddy and helping me back
Too.
all that up. You did a great job. All right, so I'm going to share your screen, but first of all, I want to compliment you. I don't know how you ever thought you weren't ever going to be a genealogist, because first of all, you know how to do research. Secondly, you understand the technology. And the work that you do with Project Kin is very frustrating, but thank you for continuing with it. And I just said Project Kin, and I mean Project In. The other person on one of my guests
okay.
is Project Kin. Got a lot of projects going on. But we're here to talk about the Irish census, and you've been doing that on television, explaining to people.
I know. It's it was certainly not something that was on the cards until I knew about a month beforehand that it was going to happen. They're like, "Yeah, we'd like to have you on the show," and I really did think it was like a spam email or something originally because I didn't even think it was real. But no, chatted on one of the national TV broadcasters in Ireland, talking about the new
National,
1926
yes.
1926 Irish census or Irish Free State census. So, yes, shall I get into it or?
Yes, well, I just want to compliment you because not everybody appears on national television on the day as this census is rolling out. How many years has it been? How long was what year census has come out? Explain it.
So, with Ireland, we've had a very spotty history with the census in
Yes.
that we have had. So, our first main one would have been in 1821, and then we would have had it every 10 years going up to 1911. And then we were supposed to have one in 1921. And it was due to, I think, the 20 something of April 1921 was the date that it was due to happen. And then early that year, it was cancelled due to the War of Independence that we had going on in Ireland at the time. And then once the Anglo-Irish Treaty was signed in December 1921, we then had a civil war in between June 1922 to May 1923, and that would actually contribute to the loss of quite a number of censuses from 1821 to 51, where they met a very burnt fate. So majority of those first four censuses from 1821 to 51, we've pretty much lost a lot of them. There are fragments still surviving, but not a whole lot. 1861 through to 91, they're all destroyed either through being pulped due to the paper shortage in First World War, or would have been destroyed due to a bureaucratic decision by the British government to destroy them, which I can't remember the exact quotation, but it was to the effect of, we don't want people being able to look at the census. We don't want them to, be frolicking through it or trying to get information from it. So we unfortunately don't have any of those. And then with Coming in the Mail, the Irish government that was in place at the time, they were trying to get a new census taken. And it wasn't until 1920, early 1926 before they finally decided on a date after numerous years from William T. Cosgrave trying to get a new census taken. And it was confirmed that on April 18th, 1926, the 1926 census would be taken, and that would mark the first census of the Irish Free State post.
And now you've got this. Let me pull it up. And so this is at Ancestry. Is this the only place you can view it?
It's not the only place. I'll actually just pull up the other place, which is on the National Archives website. If you're on the National Archives of Ireland website, if I go to the front page, I've got Search Census 1926. And then I have names here. So it remembers the last search that you have. So if you ever want to pick up your last search, you can easily do that.
Helpful,
it's actually kind of handy because there's a map here which they didn't have on past censuses. So it gives you an idea of demographics. So it can give you an idea, population pyramid. So this is the 26 counties of the Irish Free State. There are no returns, as you can see, for Manor, Tyrone, Derry, Antrim, Down or Armagh, because as that was part of what's now known as Northern Ireland, they did have a 1926 census, but those were lost in about the Second World War. So we had their next census isn't until I think 1937, but their one is not by any means as detailed as other censuses would be. So they will have a large gap to try and fill in between. Now, in terms of the population,
I'm with Frank. I love that population chart to the side, so that we get that breakdown. There's some old people there, 14 people in that oldest category.
14 men and 19 women were between the ages of 110 and 119. Now, how true those ages are, I'm not too sure. But it's always interesting.
Well, and already people over on the YouTube side are saying, and here's Katie. Good to see you, Katie. Love your artwork, dear. My cousin in Ireland just sent me a link to my great grandfather's, I'm sure it wasn't gang, household in the 1920s. And I think that kind of reflects, I don't know if your cousin in Ireland is a genealogist, but I think Barbara, who's on the panel today, this is a news event that affected people, not just the genealogist in the family, but spouses, other people are aware of this. This was a big deal.
Oh, it was huge.
Yes, go for it.
I mean, all I was going to say is being in Dublin for the day that it came out, I was dealing. I went in to meet up with a few volunteers from Project Infant, and on the public transport in, you could just hear people talking about, oh, did you see this on the 1926 census? There were so many people talking about genealogy in the wild, so to speak. It was really surreal.
That is way cool to just, it really affected the whole population. Beyond the bounds of genealogists and historians who are looking toward this. Okay, so we got two places we can access this 1926 Free State of Ireland census, the National Archives and the Ancestry.com. Of course, the advantage of Ancestry is it's in the environment of where you're probably doing your research.
That and the fact that people have had better luck with finding their relatives in the Ancestry version than the National Archives version. Because with the National Archives version, you can't search by a whole lot of data currently. They will eventually add the ability to search by occupation and other information. But it's just when you do an initial search, I can show your viewers if you want, with regards to how the search works. So say, for example, if I was to look at my granddad, Michael Loftus, now I know he would have been about 5 in Mayo. And if I don't necessarily know all the information to begin with, I can start with a fairly basic search, and then I can refine it down by little information such as age and religion. Yes.
Yeah.
Once you're in it. But even then, it's still not necessarily entirely helpful, especially if you got like a load of options. Now, there's only 59 Michael Loftuses or people with the name Michael and Loftus, or that combination in the 1926 census. So I know my granddad was about 5, so I can go by the 0 to 9 section, and I can. Although I just realized that's not going to work because I know they actually spelled his name with EAL. So there's only 2, and he's Tucana. So this is my granddad. So that was a very bad example to begin with.
But you know what? It teaches us to think creatively on our spelling, even though you think that you would spell Michael a certain way. Wow.
Yes.
Okay. So we look at the Ancestry side?
Yeah, so if I was doing it on the ancestry side, if I did, let's say, the same search, so if I did Michael Loftus, whoops, and then I do birth about 1921, and then I know he was born in Mayo, so I can do Mayo, Ireland. So with the birthplace, they do it by county. And then if you happen to know the lived in, you can put that in. And if you know of any other people who should be in the house with him, then you can put them in too. So I know his parents are there. So John and Ellen. And then I can put in extra information if I think it'll help. And as you can see, you have more kind of fields that you can search by. So marital status, relation to head, how many kids they had, orphanhood. So the orphanhood is a new thing in the sense that if they were under the age of 16 or 16 or under, they would have to put in whether or not they could, or whether or not their father was dead, their mother was dead, both parents are dead, or both parents are alive. So they could. So if you knew that. Now, my grandparents had their parents until very late in life, so they would not have been in a situation. But if I knew that, say, for example, my granddad Michael lost his dad at a young age, I could put in father dead into orphanhood, and it would pull up any Michael Loftus with father dead as a as an option. So if I put that in, you can see here. Okay, so I get Michael Loftus, and I get all of those that I find. But I can see it's actually bringing in other variants. So like I got Michael Loftus, so EAL. I don't think, it has brought in my granddad there. So that's my granddad there. John and Ellen, to Canada and Mayo. And I just saw Frank's comment there about could I do MICH and then an asterisk L. I could try and put that in. And I believe, I think it does the same thing. So either or, possibly to bring
Boolean search. Okay, all right.
Yeah, and it actually brought the one who's my granddad. Even though I haven't clicked on view record, it actually brought that one up higher in the search because it had more information. Because I had, I'm being a bit forgiving with MICH and then either the A or the E in the placement of that. And because it had more information that matched, so a birth year and parents' names, they could bring that up a bit more and say, this one might be the right one. So it is handier, particularly if you're dealing with common names. So I know for my mom's biological dad's side, I've been trying to trace his family a bit, and I'm looking at very common names in Waterford. And it's so helpful for this, particularly if I can just take a look at, if I can use that extra search or the information in the search to help refine it down, it does make a difference. And one of the kind of queries I often got when the census had dropped a minute after midnight on the 18th of April was sort of, I can't find this person, when in actuality it may have been either how it was transcribed or how it was spelt was kind of one of the main tripping up points. So now that said, there was one person who did come to me and said, there's this person in the household who we don't actually know who this person is. We believe it should be like a granduncle or something like that, but it's saying a daughter. And it turns out they actually got an error wrong on the actual document itself. So they actually mixed up I think it was like a 7-month-old son for actually a 7-month-old daughter. But the person who filled in the census had only written the first initial of the name being, I think it was M. So it was M, insert surname here. And because of that, they were kind of thinking, well, we think it's this person because they're the only ones that we know of that were born that year. And looking at the civil indexes or the civil registration indexes, you could easily see that it was the granduncle that they were looking for. So you really do have to be creative in your search.
All right, let's see what the community is saying. Okay, we got Frank's comment about using a Boolean search criteria, that seemed to work at Ancestry. Had you tried it over on the National Archives site? Probably not.
I think so. I don't know.
I don't know.
Let
You
me
want to
try.
test it? I'll pull up the next comment. Project Kin Barbara says, this is also a reminder to look for census records elsewhere in Europe for family members who immigrated to the U.S. in the 19th century. Gwen said she found some Riddell family people, which she was looking for at her in her Wikitree name study. Don't know if she's related or not. Oh, interesting. Received a grant from William of Orange, and she was using the Ancestry website. And Frank says, simply shows you're not to trust just one source. That's in yes. Good point.
And I just tried that Boolean search on the National Archives. It does work there too. So you can play around with it a bit, but because Ancestry has the extra search fields for occupations and similar things like that, it might work better in that way.
Yeah. So do you recommend just doing a name search first or adding as much as you can on that Ancestry to begin with?
I would say add as much as you can. And then that way, if you can rule some things out, then you know that, like, for example, if I know my grandaunt, who was born Kathleen, spelled Cathleen, was actually written down in the census as Kitty, which is her nickname. So I suppose if you didn't know that she was known as Kitty, you might not necessarily have found her by looking at Kathleen or spelled with a C or a K. So in that way, if you know that, for example, if I was descended from one of her other siblings, then I'd know, oh, well, I know my granddad was James and he was 3 or something. I can look him up. So you do honestly have to try and be a bit creative, but honestly try something, and if that doesn't work, approach it from a different perspective, particularly if it's one of those names that can easily be, or that can easily have numerous different variations of it.
Thank you to Randy for acting on my behalf and posting the link on YouTube to your TV interview. One of the things you talked about in your TV interview, just so proud of you. I'm like, we were all there watching it with bated breath, and I'm like, you were so calm, totally composed, highly competent individual, just answering their questions like nobody's business. But one of the questions had to do with the census forms themselves. And you're now aware, because you've shown us a few things, we'll actually go look at a census record in a second, that there are multiple fields, not just name and dates, a relationship of head of household like we're accustomed to. But in the U.S. Census, some years we've had more than one form, like we've had an agricultural schedule, or we've had Form A and Form B, and you didn't know which type of page it was. So did you have differing enumeration schedules or additional parts of the census? Talk to me about that.
So we wouldn't have, or we have a very... my brain's gone. We have a lot less forms in the 1926 census compared to prior ones. So with the 1926 census, we had Form A and Form B. So we only had 2. But for other censuses like 1901, 1911, you could have Form A, B, C, D, E, F, all the way through to, I think, K or something. There's like a lot of them. So it's kind of interesting in that if you look at Ireland at the time, in the sense that if you're looking at any form of institution, they would have all been called households. So even if it wasn't kind of like a traditional household in the way we might define the term, in the sense that we would kind of think, oh, it's a family. No, it's a conglomerate of, people from all over the country in one kind of institution or asylum. And that is what we have. But in terms of the forms, yes, we only have Form A, which is a household return, and we have Form B, which is the enumerator's return. So the enumerator's return would look more kind of like how many men were in the household, how many women were in the household, that kind of idea, as had been on prior censuses too. So that bit hadn't necessarily changed a whole lot. But the Form A had brought on or had looked at an awful lot more information, in the sense that we got more information about how many kids were in the household, but how many years and months. They went more detailed this time round, in the sense that we had how many years and months had my so for example, this is the one of my grandfather.
Yeah, let's zoom in.
So we've got the name and surname column. So we got John, Ellen, and then these are all his kids. So we have John and Ellen's kids: Luke, Thomas, Mary, Margaret. And as you can see, Margaret is Margret. So again, Margaret, it's not the traditional spelling, and Michael, it's slightly different for Margaret and Michael in terms of how their kind of formal documents would have been spelled. And then you have Kitty, who's my grandaunt Kathleen. And then you got where specifically they were coming from. So you can see down to the specific townland. So Bahola was a small little place in Mallow, or not Mallow, bloody... Why did I say Mallow? I meant Mayo. So for Mayo, it was a tiny little village. So you have Bahola, but kind of the next kind of big town would have been Kilchima. So if you were dealing with, again, common surnames and common places, if you had a specific townland, it might actually help you differentiate between two households.
Yeah.
And we've got one of the things, and I just saw Hillary's so one slight little thing with this is, if you see, depending on the way it was written, it gives you an idea as to their kind of language. So they instruct here. So if they say Irish only, means that they can speak only Irish. But if it's written Irish, then English, it means that they're a native Irish speaker, but can also speak English. And if it's English first, then Irish, it means that they can speak both, but is not a native Irish speaker. And then can read and not speak Irish means can read but not can speak Irish. So it actually gives you a bit of a sense of, you know, if they were Irish speakers, if they were able to speak Irish, it gives you an idea that, or if they could speak English and Irish, but they weren't native speakers, it also gives you an idea into the kind of social setting with that too. Because if you were dealing with someone in the Gaeltacht, for instance, that'd be a different story altogether. A Gaeltacht is an Irish-speaking area. So there's small little chunks of Ireland that have these Irish-speaking areas. So there's one in Waterford, there's one in Galway, there's there's ones in Kerry, Cork. You know, there's small little pockets all around Ireland that have Irish-speaking areas. So, but possibly the interesting bit for me, which I liked, was the occupation. So and as Hilary said there, it's she said it's similar to the 1921 census in England and Wales. So yes, there is a bit that is kind of copied over from that in terms of like some of the questions that are asked. So like when we saw the 1921 England and Wales census, we saw the personal occupation and the employment information as well. So like what role they took on and who they worked for. So John had worked on his own account, and he had 8 statute acres of land to his name. And then we have information regarding their marriage. So they, John and Ellen, married on, I think, the 15th of March, 1911.
Wow. Okay.
I felt a sneeze coming on, so that's why I was muting. 15 years and 1 month. So they give you, again, if you were trying to refine down, if you knew John and Ellen and there were a lot of John and Ellens getting married, you could use that to refine down, and a number of kids married, or number of kids born to the marriage. So they had 8 kids and they all survived. And it's now, obviously, if they weren't here, then it would give you an inkling to know, right, I need to go and look for more. So it is helpful in that sense.
Could you zoom in on just the part, the columns K and L? You're right there. Just scoot over because I want to take this in context. Frank is saying interesting edits making a laborer a farmer. Well, I would say that labor and farmer is written by the same person. I think that he wrote laborer, and then by the time you got to the own account and that it was 8 acres, etc., then you began to realize he wasn't just a laborer in somebody else's farm. He was the farmer on his own account on 8 acres. So I don't think that was, I think that was an edit at the point of enumeration, not as we see with a green pencil or whatever that green stuff is. Those notations were from somebody higher up doing some analysis here. So
so the green writing that you see is from the enumerators. So they would have been kind of tallying up everything, and those would have been their enumerators codes corresponding to different things.
Right. Yeah, I worked on 3 different censuses here in the U.S., and that's what you do is you tally up how many farmers, how many students, how many whatevers. Yeah. Then we had computers and it was a lot easier. So Katie is saying her family in Meath, if that's how you say that, were Irish speakers first. So that's interesting. I'm glad you zeroed in on the differentiation between the position of English and Irish as a language, if Irish came first, etc. Yeah, I think that Randy's right. It was farm laborer, and then they crossed out labor and put farmer because that ER does look added. Wow, you are a much better reader of that. Thank you. Takes a village. Gwen says, if the 1926 Ireland census says occupation is farmer and the employer is a person, is that the landlord?
So not necessarily. In some ways, it would be if there was like a bigger farmer, they would possibly end up working for them. So I haven't come across an example yet, but there would be cases where in some cases it could be a landlord, but for other people, it could just be a wealthier farmer or a more well-to-do farmer with a lot more land and needed extra help. So that would kind of depend.
It depends. We need that. We need a stamp. It depends. Yeah, a couple of you picked up on that ER part being added, and I totally spaced on that. So thank you. So is this page? These are very wide pages, and is this only this household on this sheet? Or does it, is there a line and then there's more for the next family or what?
So for example, there's only 10 people residing in the household, but if there was more than 10, so if you would have had 11, on this part here where it says view census images, you would have household form A, and then it would say 2, meaning that there was a second page. So depending on the different institutions, you may have a different kind. One I will show is Besborough House, which is a mother and baby home in Cork. And I'll show you because that's a good example of it. So if I go Mabel Hockvale, she was a attendant in Cork. You can see here A1, A2, A3, all the way down along. And there were 16 forms with this. So, and actually one little thing is handy is for each person, they actually put an asterisk next to whatever form they are on. So Mabel Hockvale is on form 3. So if I go into form 3, wait for it to load, I can see line number 5, Mabel Hockvale. So it helps you rather than having to go through, 16 different pages, and just to try and find out if she's on form 12 or something like that. So
okay, at the top of a census image in the United States, it typically says the town, the county, the state, and then enumeration district, but I don't think I saw that on your Irish census. Can we look at the top of a page?
Yeah, so it's on the Ireland 1926 census. It's not actually on the top, it's on the side. So I have to rotate it. So if I go and I rotate it, I can see at the bottom. Now, because this is, I'll actually show you the first page because that's probably a better option. But it's actually on the side. So for example, if I rotate it again,
the right side.
Zoom in, yeah, it's on the right side. So if I go down to the bottom, you can see to be filled up by the enumerator. So it's in Cork, rural. It's in the Blackrock District Electoral Division, and it's in Ballinaur Townland, and it's in Cork. Now, on this page, they don't actually write in, although I think this was the gatehouse or the outhouse or the outer house of Besborough. So they don't actually have it listed. But if I looked at one of the other census pages, it says Sacred Heart Home, Besborough, Cork. So if they were an institution, it would actually list if they were if it said like a mental asylum, it would say the name of an asylum. So, and going back to that population map as well, one of the things I like about it is now, while they don't mention mother and baby homes on it, you can see there's a key alongside here. So you got symbols for industrial school or reformatory schools, Magdalen laundries, mental asylums, prisons, or shared sites. So if I go into Cork, for example, you can see those shapes populating. So I've got Shanakeel Mental Hospital, I've got St. Vincent's, Magdalen Laundry, on Peacock Lane, I've got Cork Prison, I've got St. Joseph's Industrial School for Senior Boys in Greenmount, and I got a shared site here, Good Shepherd Convent, including the convent, the laundry, the reformatory, and the industrial school. So there's actually a lot of these kind of dotted around the map. If you take a look, you might just have to zoom in a bit, but you'll see them around different places on the map. So it's actually really nice. And with the little population pyramid, if I did the Black Rock area, I could see, there's one lady who is 109, or between 110 and 119, and one lady between 110 and 109. So I can get an idea based off of the different inhabitants. I can get an idea of the religious affiliation. So like 86% of the inhabitants in this area were Roman Catholic, and then 10% were Church of Ireland, so on and so forth. So you can get a different demographic. So like if I went to Douglas, next one over, there's way more Roman Catholic and less Church of Ireland. So it's a nice way of getting kind of that demographic information alongside it.
So Tony, our guy in Ireland, we love you, dear. Any tips regarding the difference between freeholder and tenant in Irish land records, and how they might give clues to family relationships circa 1820? Okay, we're talking 1926 census. I think it's outside the scope, but do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I'm not very great with land records, so I wouldn't have a great load of information on how to kind of deal with that. But I suppose if you were looking at kind of the difference between the two, I suppose I don't really have kind of any information, so I don't want to say anything that might be wrong. So yeah, I wouldn't know what to say with that.
So there are Irish research specialists who understand those land records of that much earlier, 100 years prior. And I wish we could answer that question, but it's okay. We're trying to stay on topic. But one of the interesting things that Frank says is this layout that we get at the National Archives, this demographic summaries, this is fascinating because it helps us realize, if your ancestors, that 1% of the population that was Church of Ireland, he probably led a different life than the 4% Roman Catholic, for instance. It helps us understand things better when we look at the whole, not just the specific of the household. Thank you.
There was one other thing I was going to say as well with this is, and this is for the people who love looking at the old maps. If I zoom in, so if I keep zooming in, and eventually I will have an Ordnance Survey map. So this would have been, I can see Peacock Lane. This is where one of the, not Magdalen Laundry, one of the schools. Where was Magdalen Laundry? It was further. No, it was here. Wow. This is where it was. Peacock Lane. No, it was that one. Never mind. I thought I was looking at the wrong place. So you can get an idea of the layout as well with this. Yeah. So it's really detailed. So you can see like little tree lines and get an idea of the local layout too. So there was a chapel here. There's a lodge there. You know, it really is multifaceted, and I do have to tip my hat to the National Archives for doing it in this way, because it's so multifaceted. It offers a lot.
Can you hide that white box to the left? All right. So there's St. Mary's Cathedral, and then there's the Presbytery, Chapel Hill. Yes. Yeah, this is incredible. I love this on U.S. Census over the years, how we could see, they probably went to this Catholic church, not the other one because it's so much farther away. But that's not necessarily always true. But you get more of the context of the neighborhood. I love it. And Frank is saying, I envy you so much, Daniel. I could spend weeks and months with such a source. Yes, totally.
Oh, I know.
People are excited.
I know. It's so brilliant.
Yeah. So Gwen is trying to answer the 1820 time period question for Tony. Griffith's valuation, be sure you look at it in the context of neighborhood as opposed to the alphabetical listing. When they first came out with the digital index, it was by name and not by locality, which made this kind of research, neighborhood research, extremely difficult. Because don't we know that when a man goes a courting, he's not going to travel 65 miles away for a girl named Kathleen, which isn't that a common name in Ireland for a woman?
Quite common, yes.
Yeah. And because he has work the next day. And even 65 miles in a horse-drawn wagon or carriage or whatever, that's just not realistic unless he was a businessman traveling. Yeah, we want to look in the immediate environment within walking distance. We tend to say 5 to 7 miles here in the United States. Okay, anything else? So Valerie is saying, really cool. I'll have to refer my husband's cousin who works the Irish research on her side of on her husband's side of the family. Yeah, so Frank is right. This is incredible. I was almost going to say, why even go to the National Archives site? Now you've shown us why we need to go to the National Archives site. And you've shown us why Ancestry search is so robust, because you can pivot on occupation and different categories, more than just to name a few little things. So very cool. Thank you so much for visiting with us today and sharing. Amazing. I wish I had Irish roots. I think I do on my stepmother's side.
There you go. There's something to look at.
Yeah. All right, Daniel. Thank you. All right. We're going to switch gears and have another guest come up and join us. So, Daniel, we're going to put you in the wings, and we'll have Robin come up next. I noticed that Jill has joined us. Hi, Jill. Good to see you. Just a shout out. I know you're here. Thank you, Robin, for joining us today. Now, one of the things that I wanted to talk with you about, first of all, let me tell you who Robin is. I got to know her, as I said, because of Substack. But over on Substack, she has Genealogy Matters, and talk about GenStack. Tell us what that is, and then we'll go forward with our conversation.
Well, first, thanks for having me here. I'm pleased to be here. So GenStack is a weekly newsletter that I put out, and basically I curate any articles that have posted during that week, and then any videos that have posted, and any podcasts. And I have a little bit about some books that are being or have been published, and just little bits and pieces of information about our community. It just comes out every week.
And recently you published a book, which was a phenomenal collection of stories. It's called Ancestral Women, Collected Stories of Women in Family History by Their Descendants. So you pulled these together. I want to talk about that, but I also want to talk with how you've made this publicly available. And we kind of gave people a sneak peek because the way that you've chosen to make it publicly available, hopefully forever, is to use the Internet Archive. So do you want to talk about the book first, or do you want to talk about the Internet Archive first? It's your choice.
Well, I'll start with the Internet Archive. I've gone to the Internet Archive a lot, for sources, and I just wondered, what can I do to add to this? And I tried it out, and it was extremely easy. So that's kind of where I ended up. Do you want me to show how easy it is, or?
Yes, 1 second. So I want to define the Internet Archive. Many, many years ago, probably on year 2 or 3 of Roots Tech, Brewster Kahle was one of the guests, and he is the developer of the Internet Archive.
Yes.
And he was very upset with the fact that the world's knowledge that had been gathered together in the library in Alexandria, in ancient history, was lost to the ages. And, Daniel spoke to what happens during war. For one reason or another, entire census collections are lost or repulped so that they've got paper as necessary for the war effort. Or we saw that in U.S. history when courthouses were burned during General Sherman's March to the Sea, etc. So Brewster's concept was that if he could marshal resources in the way of a website and the finances to run that website and the technology to run the website, that's what he would do, and he would call it the Internet Archive. And genealogists have globbed onto it, but we haven't talked about it in a number of years here on Dear Myrtle. And that's part of why I wanted you to come show us exactly how easy it was. You created a book, and now we're doing something with the Internet Archive. So take it away.
Okay. So the first thing you do, it's very easy, create an account. It's like signing up for anything else. And you go up to the top right corner, click on it, and you'll get a confirmation email, and you're good to go. Then the next thing is just choose your file or drag and drop it in there. And then you put in all your metadata, and it's pretty easy. It looks a little complicated, but it's really easy. You're just putting in all the information that you want. You want to make sure and put in tags that will allow people to find your document.
So this is for a video, but it doesn't have to be a video.
No, it can be anything. And then you're done. and it gives you a shareable URL, which I have used for the book that I added. You can make changes on it, and the very cool thing is that it will be there for a very long time, because that is what, like you said, their purpose is. So beyond that, you can also print out a book. You can get your own book printed. I've talked to people in our community about that, how we really want to safeguard for 100 years from now. We want people who are researching to be able to find our stories that we've written, and how important it is to them. So yeah, that's it. And if I've partnered up with Erin Youngless from Research to Novel, and we're going to have a genealogy storyteller summit in September. So there'll be much more information coming about that. So watch for that.
Okay, so this is a very interesting concept, and I want to ask the members of the panel to let's have the panelists come up, and I also want to ask this question to those of you who are on the YouTube side. And Frank, if you'd bring everyone up. Jill is still upset about the loss of the Alexandria Library. We didn't get our library card, did we? Okay. All right. So the first question is, how many of you, by raise of hand, have ever gone to the Internet Archive website? Okay, every one of us. Okay, Randy says yes, a lot, multiple times. Okay, so let me start with you, Randy. What did you do when you, what do you do? What have you found? Why did you go to the Internet Archives? Because I think this will be important for people to hear what it is you use the Internet Archive for.
It's one of the standard places that I check when I'm searching for a person or something like that. It's free, and it has a number of things that we don't really know about it. It has not only books, but it has some periodicals, it has movies, it has images, it has census records. U.S. census records are there in a raw form, but that's, you know, it's just one of the standard places I go. So I was there yesterday looking for my Peckrell family, my wife's Peckrell family in D.C. and Maryland.
Okay. All right. Who wants to go next? Jill, you want to go next?
Sure. I look for a wide variety of things like Randy mentioned. One of the things I noticed is that Google took down a lot of its county histories. So I find county histories there now where I couldn't find them anymore on Google. So that's one thing. Excuse me. The other thing I look for, I did some research incorporating some common phrases of Sherlock Holmes in a genealogical proof standard, you know, things like data, data, data. Yeah. So what I wanted to do was find the originals. Well, they have the original manuscripts, the original journals that these stories were published in with the original names. And so it was great fun to look at these 1920s, 1910s, you know, manuscripts. I'm trying to think what else I go there for. I go there to try and find books that I don't want to buy, but I want to read and extract information from. So I was doing a study on immigration, for example, and I wanted to check out a book. And so I checked to see if they had it. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. I will tell you that the Seattle Genealogical Society, when we moved from Sandpoint to our new location, we reduced our library by 40%. And with that, then, We first offered it to Seattle Public Library. They came in and took boxes out of that 40% that we didn't want to keep. Then we offered it to other genealogical societies in Washington to just come and take what you wanted, and they came. And the remainder we bundled up with the help of Internet Archive and gave it to them. So they have that extra stuff that we didn't keep. And they literally palleted it. We then put it on the pallets. They shrink wrapped the whole thing and they shipped it to California. So it's not just a book, it can be an entire collection that you might send to them.
Excellent. Okay, who else wants to jump in on this? Miles?
Yeah, as was said, the county histories, I do a lot of research on county histories. I also, if I'm doing research on a surname, I'll put a surname in and see what kind of records I come up with. And it's amazing some of these, little known manuscripts or whatever it might be that they've got in their collection. The other thing is, the Wayback Machine, which archives the web pages. And if you find some web pages that you find very helpful and you're like, I hope this never disappears, you can go right up there and suggest it to the Wayback Machine and they will archive it at that point in time so that you never lose that page.
Yeah, that's what I use a lot, is the Wayback Machine, where you could put in the web address of question, what you used to go to. It could be the keywords or the actual old URL, and see what it's got. And then you get a calendar and you figure out, I think I read it around Christmas time, whatever. And yeah, that Wayback Machine is part of the Internet Archive.
I make sure that I get my blog backed up there once every couple of years or so.
It's very good.
And we put AppGen, the Applied Genealogy Institute, on the Internet Archive as well for the Wayback Machine, because we knew we were going to lose that site when we stopped paying for it. So we made sure that there was some record of the existence of Applied Genealogy Institute when we closed it down.
That's a very good idea, especially when there are so many genealogy societies that can't afford to pay these increasingly expensive costs of maintaining a .com, .org, whatever their website is. And let's see what the community has to say about it. Of course, Claire agrees this is a wonderful resource. She's used it for years. Hello, it could be a place to submit some typed memories left by some people. Yeah, if you've just got it in PDF format and you don't want to do a blog, you don't want to create a website, but you want to archive it, aside from attaching it to the profile of the person over at familysearch.org, which Randy does, and putting it on the profile, attach it to Wikitree. Those are for genealogists, right? They know to look for it, something like that. But the Internet Archive is bigger than that and has a broader audience.
So I have a question. My question is, let's say you have a family manuscript. Say you put it into PDF. Say you even upload it to Internet Archive. Do they then scan it for OCR, or are they just taking it and do you have to index it? So I'm getting a head positive that they actually do the OCR. Okay, that's great news. That is great news, because now I feel like, as a desk volunteer at SGS, when somebody walks in with a stack of papers, I have an outlet for them.
You really do, and you got a scanner right there. You get them to work.
Yep.
I did that personally. I uploaded a book and then search on the
Speak
content.
up. We can't hear you very well, dear.
I said I did that personally. I uploaded a family history book and can see the scanned versions of it right away. The OCR is in there.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like practically instantaneous.
It is.
Yeah, we do realize that from time to time there are challenges that happen with every website. First of all, there are redundancies built into his own system and to this so that it's not lost. They may have outages for certain portions. This is part of the real world, Gwen. And yeah.
Well, we
So
were concerned at SGS when they were in their lawsuit.
yes, I get that.
So that
And
was a concern as well.
You know, he fights those things tooth and nail.
Yes, he does.
And yeah, that's exactly what she's referring to. But you know, a lot of crazy things have been happening lately. But that's now, that's not the future. And things will work in the long run. I have to believe that. Anyway, Marcia says she uploads materials for her local historical society to the Internet Archives on a regular basis. Yeah. Wikipedia, if you want to know more about the outage and about the Internet Archive, go to Wikipedia. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, and you can upload it for free. Let's see, but Barbara brings up something. Drop a contribution. And a little, it's like, remember how Wikipedia every year says if everybody gave $1, that'd take care of things. Let's do that. All right. Anybody else on the panel want to talk about how they use the Internet Archive?
I suppose I approach it from a student perspective in the sense that if I'm doing like writing an essay or writing something, I will often need something that is not easily accessible. For instance, there was one thing that I did in an English module a couple of years ago, and the lecturer kind of said, right, you have to go and actually get a copy of it, or you have to try and go and find it. And it was a play called Chips with Everything by Albert Wesker. And that was actually on the Internet Archive, so I could actually look at it all for free from home, from my desk. So it was very handy. But it has helped in terms of like writing writing essays on topics that might not necessarily be covered very well elsewhere. So it kind of has some really kind of niche material, and it kind of combines some more mainstream kind of material along with kind of like the more kind of unusual, or the kind of bits that you really see on the front of Time magazine or something like that. It's the kind of unusual. It's the unusual side of things.
Yeah, I put it up there with Hathi Trust. It's one of the things that I would go to when I'm doing a literature review to find out, what kind of things have been said about Chester County, Pennsylvania, if that's the new county I'm doing research in. Yeah, also Archive Grid. Okay, this is concerning. I didn't know that the San Jose city is apparently about to close public access to the California room. Must inquire how much of their holdings are available on the Internet Archive. It certainly is a good exit strategy to have in mind, but that's a long-going project when you're talking about a dedicated room on county or California history. Yeah. Jill, you did not know about the proliferation of family history. So it's good we're having this discussion.
Yeah.
Miles? Yep.
Yeah, just in relationship to that, we had a client and they're like, oh, our whole family history is written out in a book. I've got a copy of the book. Do you want me to send it to you so you can use it? I'm like, well, let me check. And I went on the Internet Archive, and the book was published in 1945, and it was right there on the Internet Archive. And I could just, do a full every name search in it and pull up the pages that referenced her family.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. Valerie says she especially uses the Wayback Machine to check certain time periods when I looked at a website and now they are gone. Yeah. I don't know why. And on one of the big genealogy websites. I'm trying really hard to be politically correct here. I have found things at the Internet Archive that I thought I saw at another website. And yes, they had it behind their paywall, this genealogy website. So you just need to go there and look and see. So they've got all kinds of text files, 50 million books, all kinds of film, audio, video. Yeah, a lot of stuff. Podcasts. Yeah.
Yeah. Myrt, can I add something?
You bet.
I forgot to mention earlier that one of the reasons the Internet Archive stood out to me is because I got invited by Barbara Tien to go to their warehouse. They gave a tour of it, and going in there and seeing it, it makes you really understand, one, how important it is to donate to them, and two, what's behind there, and that it's so real. I mean, we saw stacks and stacks of material they were scanning. They had a whole video department. It was pretty amazing, and so props to Barbara for letting me go there with her.
Yeah, and seeing a server farm is incredible. And that's in this location, and the backup location is somewhere else, like not in the same building, not even in the same state.
Yeah, it's all over. I talked to someone the other day, and he's in Missouri, so.
Yeah, I hear you. So Gwen reminds us that before we upload anything, look at the terms of service. So if you have a newly published book, like I just got one, I got 2 new books on genealogy. One regarding the black slaves of the Choctaw Indians in Oklahoma. And, you know, I'm not expecting that book to be there. And I don't own the rights. I don't own the copyright to it. So I'm not uploading that book. Yeah.
Yeah, and if it's a book that you're trying to, profit from, don't put it on there yet.
Right. We profit from publishing our book. I don't know if we do or don't.
I haven't.
Oh, good. Okay. Oh, all right. Let's switch gears again and talk with Barbara. Okay. All right. Let me pull up the link that you want. So, Frank, if you could move everyone, and I will go get the correct link. 1 second here. Boy, what a day we're having. All righty. Barbara,
Hey,
how are you?
I'm good, thank you. My cat's awake now, though. She may parade through here.
Oh, good.
She's
love
got
it.
a whole social campaign
She's
going.
clawing at the door. I can hear her. All right. Well, welcome. Good to have you back
Thank
again.
you.
You're in the middle of almost every story we have. It's just kind of fun how the tapestry of our relationships and our ancestral relationships, how we learn from each other, etc. But we're going to talk about Stories 250, and let me share that website and get that up on the screen. Okay.
Thank you.
What is Stories 250? Now, I know because you've talked with the Genia bloggers about it. You've talked with your audience. I've shared a little bit with my audience, but I wanted to be sure we get this into the for the folks on the YouTube side who have stories.
Yeah. This really came out of a, I'm glad it's not making anybody allergic over the phone. This came about because I have just always felt so strongly about the idea of a country founded on an idea. And here we come, there we had the bicentennial, a lot of other things happening at the time, and here we come to 250. And again, a lot happening at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to take this back into who we are and why we are. And in doing that, of course, you realize that was a Civil War. So who we are is a little bit about all of us speaking English, right? It was a British Civil War. And then the larger picture is it was part of the entire Enlightenment around the world. And so thinking through how this ties into who we are, it is, of course, who we are as our families. So I wanted people to have a way to share our shared connection and an interest in family history by sharing where our people were 250 years ago, give or take 50 years, at the time of what became the American Revolution or the American War of Independence, call it what you will. Depends on which side you were. I want to know about it. All of us had family around 250 years ago. The only question is whether you know who they are and what they were doing. That alone makes it interesting. So I wanted a way to bring all of that together because having it together, we can, see how we relate. Go on.
Well, and even if your ancestor had not yet set foot on the American continent, there are wives back in the old country whose husbands went to war and crossed that big pond and stepped foot. It isn't just the American patriots. It isn't just those who are already here who were not patriots but were loyalists. And the whole concept of who was it to be Black on the American continent in that time period? A lot of things weave together
Exactly.
To get this worked out. So you have a website. Let me pull it up.
I have a website, and the idea of the website is certainly to give it a central place. But if you'll scroll up on that a little bit, what you see at the top is really what it's all about. And then you scroll down and you'll see we're doing monthly talks. These are the talks, recordings of the talks that have already happened. Thank you, Bill. Keep going. And you'll see the ones coming in May and June because we're going to have another big event in July, bringing everything together. But below that are all of the posts organized by time. So here are the posts that everybody, anywhere within the sound of my voice and the access of a keyboard, and a public link. That means not behind a paywall, not behind an access wall like a Facebook wall, but public like a blog, and bringing them together, contextualizing them together. So in looking at ways to do this, you're going to recognize many of those names. If you want to go all the way back up to the top again, please.
You bet.
You'll see that I wanted to see how do they all fit together. So they fit together in two really interesting ways. One is the timeline, and I think you may have this already on another tab. If you want to tap that timeline key button.
You bet.
So this pulls up the view on a timeline. Now, I actually didn't develop this. I didn't build this. Oh, I built the timeline using JavaScript code that's provided by the Knight Foundation, knightlab.com. Knightlab has, just tap on any one of those, that's fine. Knightlab creates these tools for journalists to have ways to share their stories in a timeline context. Well, yeah, history fits that very, very nicely. You see that cluster of stories all together in these years, in this period of time? Again, I'm looking 50 years before and after the American Revolution. These are in the 1750s, early 1700s. Why? Because those people were alive at the time of the American Revolution. And you see the young men who were fighting in the revolution. This one and the one about the Boston Massacre, those were written by people in, Australia, New Zealand. One of our biggest contributors is Anne Young, who writes for her WordPress blog out of Victoria, Australia. And you really see how these people have their family connections, their DNA connections, their known ancestors in these, far on the other side of the planet. But hey, yeah, we're related. And this wasn't our story. It's a global story. And I found few other ways to communicate this. The other way, of course, is a map. And if you can go back to that, yeah,
And
easiest
that was
way is
Bill's contribution, it looks like, because it was a Moore
that's
family.
right. That's right. That's one of many.
You want to go to map?
Go to map. So map asks, where was your story set? And this takes people all over. You see, yeah, certainly primarily the eastern side, eastern seaboard in the Northeast in the United States, what we now know as the United States. But many of these stories also came. There's one of a Hessian soldier. He was brought over from Hesse and he came in and did his thing. He was 17 years old, joins the fight and says, meh, maybe I'll stay. And we are his descendants. Our writer is a descendant. So the important thing is that it's your story. If you want to go back to the main page now, I then started to play around with this idea, and it's been popular. I invite anyone to add their own stories. I ask that it be a true story in the honor of genealogy. I ask that it be publicly accessible and a few other details. I'm not paying anybody for this, but I am sharing it with everybody. And then finally, that's right there, accessible to everybody. And my deadline is going to be June 30th because a girl's got to have some sanity. This door is open till June 30. I'm already past about 60 articles and somewhere over 20 writers. So many writers are submitting multiple stories, which is great. And then I decided that I kept looking at some materials around here on my library and said, maybe we need some kind of commemoration for this. So I'm putting together a magazine, right? Why not? So all of these publications that have been submitted on, sites anywhere, I do ask explicitly for an okay. And when I get that, I am rolling it into the magic of Lulu to produce a magazine. I was going to do the whole thing as a color magazine, but realities of printing, we tipped past that somewhere north of 300 pages. So we're somewhere on the order of 400 pages now. Lulu will print 800-page magazines. But the interior is going to be black and white. And if anybody asks me very nicely, I will probably be able to put together a color PDF that you can go print for yourself wherever you'd like. But I'm having a ball. I'm actually going to, is it Jill's workshop during NGS to get my Lulu skills polished. To make sure that I don't get into trouble when I take the next big
Sounds
step,
like
because
Jill.
this is all education for me.
All right, so that's our Jill. What are you telling me, Hillary? Is it getting to be time?
20 past.
Okay, she's giving us a 10-minute warning shot. So you got, this is so cool that you get to be and know each other already. And I mean, who doesn't know Barbara? Who doesn't know Jill? You guys are both powerhouses in the world of genealogy. And to have you both go to NGS.
I'm the representative for newbies here.
Yeah, I love it. Excellent. Well, and I'm making a contribution, and what I'm doing is I'm making a quilt. And the quilt print is has the Constitution and a few things, but it goes all the way up to the War of 1812. And so,
50 years.
but in the middle of this, off center, I'm cutting out this whole cloth and then inserting individual blocks that represent the states where my people were through that time period of 1812.
That's
so
fantastic.
Mr. Myrt's like, you're mentioning Ohio, and I'm like, yeah, by then they were in Ohio. By then they were in Kentucky because they got land because of Rev War service, etc. Those kind of things. And
that was exactly where I was going by using a quilt as the, the icon for the whole campaign is precisely for that. I didn't even know you were working on a quilt because from my perspective, the whole point is storytelling takes a lot of different forms. And if you want to submit a video, a presentation, I'm game. I just need a digital, little digital bridge to get there from here. And I'm game. It's all good. And I do QR codes all over the magazine. So, as long as it can get within my digital voice, we're good.
So what I'd have to do in my case, since it's a 3D object and they don't each get a piece of the pie here, is I'll have to do a blog post and explain why.
And take
I
pictures.
like how you have taken what's been submitted and have pivoted with the timeline, and then it's clickable. So you can see it in that context. I like the map that's clickable. And it's just a marvelous thing. You wanted to say something before we switch gears?
If you want to click that Learn More button, you will see the magazine. Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so the Learn More button takes you to the magazine.
Okay. So there we are.
This is the form.
Yeah.
Go to the main page. Go to that Stories 250 page, and from the Learn More. There you go.
Okay.
And that takes you to all the posts I've done about it. The most recent one was about the magazine.
Okay. All right. Sounds like a plan. As if you don't have anything else to do. But this is a major initiative. When you see the entries, they're phenomenal.
Exactly.
And it's a good way to get us to tell the story, as opposed to names, dates, and places and having it stuck in our genealogy databases, etc.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
you. Wonderful. All right, we've got to do a lightning round, and we've got 2 people to share with. So let's have Randy next because he has something to tell us what's been going on over at MyHeritage, and then we're going to wrap it up and talk with Hillary. So what's going on with the tribute reel?
MyHeritage announced that it was coming back at RootsTech, and yesterday they released it. And you can find it on the MyHeritage main page under photos, and it say new. And if you have photos on MyHeritage and you've identified the people well in the photos, you can click buttons and put pictures of a person in chronological order if you wish, and it will create a reel with animation of those pictures and colorized if necessary of those pictures. You're looking at Roberta Estes' mother's reel. Mine is actually in the stack there. My mother's is in there's a gallery of them. And there's a gallery of, I don't know, 20, 30 of them, something like that. So it when you see it the first time, if you did it, there's my mother's there. If you do one and you see it the first time, I guarantee you'll have tears in your eyes. Guarantee. Just because all the pictures and bringing them to life, yeah, it's AI, but they're your pictures, and it's your mother. In my case, my mother's life.
Yeah.
And it has a music background. There's no words. They actually got that photo out of order. That was from the honeymoon, and the honeymoon isn't until 3 pictures later.
Yeah. So. Look at those eyebrows and those curls. Yes. Oh. Well, we've had a lot of discussion about the use of AI and whether or not we really want to animate our ancestor pictures. But the bottom line is it takes this kind of thing. It's like historical fiction. This is based on the history or the data, in this case, the photographic images that you submitted that's already part of your genealogy. This is, again, another way to get our genealogy off of our Roots Magic and Family Tree Maker and out there, so the non-genealogists are jazzed about their heritage. It's cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Your siblings, your children, your grandchildren, they don't care if it's colorized. They don't care if it's now animated. They're seeing their ancestors in action. And some people make a big deal. Okay, it's not real. You know, it's been fixed. It's okay. I love it.
I hear you. I hear you. I think it's wonderful. And it's there in the environment. Oh, I'm already sharing the screen of what's coming up next with Hillary. It's in the environment of a website that we trust. You as you're an AI guru, basically. You know how to use Notebook LM and make things like this happen. Well, you're far advanced over any of us here and tens of thousands of other genealogists. But this puts this kind of an intriguing tool in the hands of the members of MyHeritage. And that's a good stepping stone toward getting into the world of AI. Yeah. All right, let's see. What else was I? Oh, we're going to talk with Hillary next. Sorry for that jaggedy segue. Thank you, Randy, for sharing. Hillary, you've been away and we missed you, but you have an interesting screen to share. Welcome back. And we're looking at a marriage record. So tell me what's up.
Yeah, well, this was a marriage record. Now, I discovered some time ago that there were these two people getting married, and when they changed a lot of the things at the GRO so that you could have the mother's maiden name, I thought, well, I'll have a look at the children of this couple, and some of the surname some of the time was recorded as Ely. Well, I've got a connection with the Elys because my two times great grandfather was a Stephen Richards Buckle. His parents were a Stephen Buckle and a Louisa Richards. Now, Louisa Richards' mother had married a Thomas Richards, and it was a bigamous marriage, but on his part. And his mother remarried, and she married somebody called Edward Ely, and they were in Southampton. And they got married. Well, they got married in Hampshire in a different place, but they they ended up in St Michael's in Southampton. And I believe that this Stephen Buckle is actually an older son of this same Stephen Buckle. I haven't yet actually proved it through any means, but I believe it is him. And I believe that this Elizabeth Ely or Healy, one or the other, they sound very similar, could both be relations of mine. And I managed to get this is an actual photograph that I took of the actual register that was allowed.
Oh, you were there. Yeah.
And obviously they originally recorded it as Ely and changed it to Healy because that's how she signed. And interestingly, well, the address all fits. The father's name here, Edward Ely, fits.
Stephen Buckle.
Well, and interestingly, Stephen was the son of Stephen Mariner. It's everything's sort of adding together. And I know who James Healy is, and I know who Jemima Jones is. James Healy is a son of Edward, and Jemima Jones becomes his wife. And I have got newspaper things of what happened to this Jemima as well. I've got a newspaper report when of something that happened. She ended up dying after she had a child, and I've got newspaper things which even connects her to this Louisa Richards of mine. So it's a very of all the things I discovered when I went to Southampton, this was the one I really was keen to do, and I'm so glad I got the original rather than sent away for something which may or may not have had that Evie crossed out on it.
You know,
I don't.
This is so exciting, because this is why people who are beginners need to understand you get the original. You just don't rely on just an index that would say Stephen Buckle and whoever the bride, and then that's the date. Look at how much you've been able to triangulate, because you know this is part of the family. You know so many of these names from your research. And they would not have seen this Ely Healy. But isn't that a thing that we learned in My Fair Lady, that depending on the accent, you would add like an H in front of or remove that? You know, we learned about the language, the Cockney accent, etc. And this is just fantastic breakthrough. This is like an all-time breakthrough of understanding. And we do know that names are repeated in various generations, don't we? Wow.
Yeah. And this is one of the things I managed to photograph. I have got some other things I managed to photograph as well. Some older documents that were. This is the only one that was post civil registration. I managed to photograph 2 or 3 other things that were pre registration, because I couldn't. Because they haven't scanned the originals yet. Ancestry has a lot of them, but it has the bishop's transcripts, but doesn't actually have the parish registered scan. So I wanted
when you,
yeah.
When you come back, when we come back, can you show us, you know, like you've done here, one new thing that you got until you work through those? Because we would be fascinated to see them and compare maybe if it was a bishop's transcript and what you got at the actual church. That would be fantastic, and I'd appreciate it.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. All right. We're a little bit over time, but we got them in. We got all our topics in. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Let's pull all the panelists up. I want to thank everyone. Valerie is saying something interesting. Digitizing a cassette audio tape of a 2-hour interview she did with her mom back in okay, you're giving my heart palpitations. Looking forward to getting back the 1937 to 1945 video to see it for the first time. I am so excited at the progress everybody's making. Yeah, I would have goosebumps and heart palpitations, etc. I do think it was a wonderful session today. Thank you, everyone, for participating. It's been quite a day, that's for sure. Nothing left to say, but I'm Dear Myrtle, your not so retired friend in genealogy. Happy family tree climbing, everybody. That's a wrap.